welcome to Up the Villa podcast. If you are new to our channel, drop us a sub. The channel's growing really well. It's doing really well. We're really happy with it. We've got big things to come. So let's have a like target on this video of 350. Subscribe to the channel and get involved in the comments section. Your thoughts on Aston Villa versus Arsenal. So the beauty of these podcasts are that we can sometimes just come on and vent how we are feeling, and you listen to us and you're all brilliant and the comments are absolutely fantastic. But today, we do our match previews. We're really optimistic. We're an optimistic podcast. We will look to the positives in any situation. I don't think you'll find a more positive podcast than this one because of just the way we are, as people, the way we view the game, the love of the club that we have. We literally love them to pieces, but like you all do. But today, it's a typical Villa performance. And what I mean by that is that when you're playing against a good side like Arsenal, to be fair, they're flying at the minute, aren't they? They're a real good club. What Arteta's done to them is, they were in the bottom three this season at the start of the season, and the football that he's done, the youth that he's brought through, they're really good. They've addressed certain issues that they've had in the past with central midfield. They just look a complete team, and I felt like today they were in third gear, but we know Villa blow hot and cold. That's why we're sitting ninth in the Premier League. We're basically a mid-table side who blow hot and cold. But what I can't ever understand with Villa is whenever I watch football, whether it's just different teams in the Premier League or the Championship or Champions League football or whatever, there's always the underdogs that somehow put in a massive monster performance when you don't expect it. The underdogs sometimes beat the teams that you don't expect them to win. But I just feel with Villa at the minute, if we are expected to lose, we will lose. And when I mean lose, I don't just mean we're just narrowly losing or whatever. We're just not at it. Like today, we're a million miles off it. There was no fight, desire, passion. It was passive, it was placid, it was lethargic. It reminded me of like we're going through the motion of a pre-season friendly that we just feel like we're just happy to be there and we're just having a nice little kickabout on a Saturday morning. Like, we know we're coming up against a real good Arsenal side and we were shit. Absolutely shit. And we never laid a glove on them. We were nowhere near midfield. Strikers were offering nothing. Hold-up plays, awful. I just can't for the life of me understand what happens in training to transition to what happens on a match day. When we're on it, we're all right. When we're up against someone like Leeds and we're playing really well and we look up for it, we look half decent. But when we don't turn up, we look absolutely woeful. And I think this shows in how many games we've lost this season. We've lost more than half our games this season. We've lost 15 games out of 29 games. And to me, this is where my point is. If we're not winning, we're just not in the game. We're not there. We're not scrapping for a draw. We're never in the contest. It's either we're in it or we're not. And when we're not, we're crap. And Gerrard has come out after the game. And this is what Gerrard said. And this is the manager of a Premier League football team coming out saying this about his Premier League side. Right? We set up to be aggressive, but lacked belief in what we're doing. I thought certain individuals lacked belief. It's hard to execute a game plan if not everyone believes in what you are doing. Justin, what's going on? Because, I mean, come on, we were crap, weren't we?
Yeah. I've just enjoyed your rant, to be fair. I really enjoyed all that. I can't disagree with any of it. You know, we just got back from the game, bitterly disappointed. The problem is the difference between our good performances and our bad ones are massive. There's no middle ground with us. We're either really good or really shit.
But this is why the win column compared to the loss column, surely.
Yeah. It's what I'm saying. The differential between our performance levels are unbelievable. The consistency has just got to improve. Otherwise, we're just going to be where we are, mid-table Premier League team, which isn't a terrible place to be after where we've come from. But we're looking to improve. We're looking to kick on now. And I agree with you. Our results against the top sides this season has been woeful. You know, we've barely laid a glove on any of the top six, the current top six. And today was no different. You know, Arsenal are a good side and they've turned it around massively and they've had a good run and they've got some really good players. But in my opinion, I think we've got players that are easily on par with them. And had we put in a performance that we put in 2 games ago against Southampton, we would have probably beat them today. But we nothing. It looked like they didn't want to know. They were passive, like you say, they're passive at the back. It took 15 passes to get out of our half. It took, the midfield were just sitting there static. They didn't want to drive forward. They didn't want to try and beat a man. They didn't want to try and make things happen. The two, I don't get the change. We talked about it in the preview, and to be fair to you, you've absolutely nailed it. 2 10s and a 9. Me and Ryan, didn't think he would do that because it doesn't work. In my opinion, it hasn't worked again today. You got 2 10s that just playing in each other's pockets, really. And what it does is it restricts Coutinho to play centre left, and Bundy was playing centre right. Ollie Watkins, when he's playing like today, you might as well not play him because his hold-up play is woeful. His first touch is terrible. And when you're playing up there on your own, you have to be able to get hold of that ball. You have to fight for it. A couple of times he went toe-to-toe with Ben White, but generally he was out-strengthed all the time and his touch was terrible. He couldn't bring people into play. When you've got 2 players like he has behind him, it's imperative that when the ball gets played up to him, however it comes to him on the floor, in the air, whatever, that he's got to battle and try and get hold of that ball. And when he gets hold of that ball, he's got to make sure that he uses it and allows the team to get up with him. And it just didn't happen today. So we didn't ever really threaten him. I think the first shot we had on target was the 94th minute with the Coutinho free kick. That's embarrassing at home for that to be your first shot on target. I just don't understand what happens. I don't get why we throw a performance in like this against anybody, really. But we had a chance today to really put a marker down against a good side, and we blew it. Utterly blew it, and it's terribly disappointing. I don't, Arsenal were better than us today, but our levels were so off it that they didn't even have to get out of second gear to win the game. It's terrible.
We are literally reacting. We're reacting to this game. Do you know what I mean? So our emotions might be a little bit sort of negative, but I
don't think it's about being negative. It's about, we've always said it, and since we started this from day one, we will say what we see, and we always try and put a positive slant on what we see because we want positive things to happen to our club. We want to be a good club. We want to be a good team. We want to win games. We want to be exciting, and we want, like Gerald was saying in the press conference, we want to be a team that gets people off the seats. But when we put up, like you said, the transition from the training ground to the pitch, I don't understand it. So they would have known the way they were going to play. They would have known the formation and everything by the time they finished training on Friday. So they knew what was going to happen. So to be ready and to prepare all week for a game and to go out and just not turn up and not show, I don't understand it. There's no excuse for not putting the effort in. And this is where we missed a real dominant centre midfielder at games like today. They've all had the moments this season, but all 3 of them, Ramsey for me needs to be taken out for a few weeks now because he looks tired. The kid looks tired. He's a phenomenal talent and he's got a huge future at our football club. And I'll see him playing for England sooner rather than later. But currently for me, he looks a bit leggy. McGinn flatters to deceive. 1 week he's brilliant. Next week he just goes missing. Douglas Luiz tries his best, but he loses the ball too often. The 2-10s just didn't work. I thought Matty Cash had a good game today. I thought he was the only one that tried to get forward. He had a couple of barnstorming runs when he took 3 or 4 on, and he got fouled a couple of times. And the 2 centre halves did okay. I thought it was a bit harsh on Callum Chambers to be left out, as we spoke about in the pre-match one, because he's done nothing wrong. And Ashley Young, he's a 36-year-old left back filling in, because we've got an injury there, and he did okay again. Yeah, I thought he put 1 or 2 half decent balls in when he got the chance to cut inside and flick it in. Substitutions, Bailey and Traore, the enigmas that they are, that are we ever going to get the best out of them two? I don't know. I sort of understood why he tried to do it. He just went 4-3-3, so he's literally trying to throw the kitchen sink at me in a way, putting 2 real pacey, tricky players on. But if it's not their day, they just look like, what's the point in putting them on? And then Coutinho sat back in the midfield 3. But, we just couldn't. It doesn't matter how much we tried today. We couldn't. Nothing worked for us. And it's I don't know, how do you I think, like I say, we're reacting really quickly after the game. So maybe after a few days of thinking about it, we might, think it's slightly different. I'm certainly not going to throw my dummies out of the pram. I'm not going to. We're an evolving team. Gerrard is still in his reasonable infancy on this team. He's had 1 transfer window, but a couple of 3 players in, hasn't he? And the summers next season is going to be when he's really judged. But like I said, the consistency is the problem for me. Our good performances are very good. Our poor performances are very poor. And until we bridge that gap and bring it closer together and be more consistent week in, week out, which is all that Arteta's done at Arsenal, if you look at it. There wasn't a poor squad when they were down the bottom 3. They were just not getting the best out of the players they had. He's managed to get a consistency level now where he's getting the best out of them week in, week out. And they weren't brilliant today. They kept the ball better than us. They moved the ball better than us, and they didn't have to do any more than that. I'll have to look at the goal again. It looked like it took a bit of a lucky deflection, and then it rolls to Saka and he just puts it in. But that happens, doesn't it? That's football, isn't it? But overall, until we get the best out of what we've got week in, week out, and we get a consistency level of 80% at least from each player, those comments are worrying for me, from the manager to come out after the game and say that when he's worked with them all week. He's obviously very disappointed with what he's seen today. So, we've said it 3 or 4 times. I think there will be changes in the summer. I think there's certain players there that if he could choose not to play and replace them with players that he wants, I think he would snap his fingers and do that. But he's having to work with what he's got at the moment. So we'll see what happens next season. But for now, we've got a few tough games coming up. We've won, lost 2, won 3, lost 2. So it's so up and down. That's what I'm saying. The consistency is just ridiculous. I don't know how. We've got a really tough away game next, but hopefully, Luca Dean will be back for that, and I think he'll revert back to maybe 2 up top. But I don't know. Yeah. There's lots to work on, isn't there?
It's just this midfield, isn't it? I mean, you may as well clip every Villa per performance, and we'll say the exact same thing, won't we? The midfield. There's no, mind my French, but there's no horrible bastard in there. He's gonna shit out. He's gonna get stuck in. He's gonna pull one of the opposition up when they've dived and stuff, and just mop it. I mean, at the minute today, it was around the 60th minute, and you'd got sort of like Mings and Konsa. Dougie Luiz was picking the ball up off them 2, literally standing right next to him, just knocking it left. And it's too nice, too easy.
It's turgid, isn't it? It's utterly turgid football. And like you say,
it's just like, you're having a little kick about. It's nice, we're having a nice little game with our mates. There's just no intensity. And for me, that's the problem. And I mean, Sanson, I'm starting to feel sorry for him, because what has he got to do to get on that football pitch? I mean, Bertrand Traore today, he's so selfish with that ball. The header that he did, and I don't know, man. Like, for me, if in that game today, I just felt in that 65 minutes, we just needed that injection in midfield just to start adding a bit of energy that can just take us from like a 5 to a 7 to just inject something. And I don't know, it's just too slow, it's too laboured. I know we want to be a possession-based team, but for me, that's just a massive area, and it's just my bugbear at the minute. I don't know, I just feel it's just weird. Like just the changes are just a bit, I don't know, just a bit random. I mean, Tim's on the bench and...
Yeah, I think we said this, didn't we? He's in a bit of a quandary at the moment, Gerard. I mean, the way it's looking now, I think anything above ninth is probably almost an impossibility now. We've got some really tough games for the end of the season, so we've got to finish around mid-table. So at some point, he maybe has got to sort of not give up on trying to win games, but try and win games, but also give players a chance that haven't been given a chance. This is the time to do it now. We're coming towards the end of the season. We're not going down. We're not going to finish anywhere like above 7 or 8, around there. So Sansons, the Chukwuemakers, the Irabunans, these players who either play them or just tell them they're not going to have any good. And yeah, Traore and Bailey are very, very, very frustrating players to watch, but they've both been injured for long periods. And as I say, I sort of understand why he tried it today, but for me, I would have chucked Danny Ings up front and just said, play the two. They've worked pretty well together in the last 4 or 5 games. Stick Coutinho in the 10 behind him and maybe change a couple of the centre midfielders for fresh legs, because he couldn't have done any worse than what we were seeing out there today. So, like Sanson and Chukwuemeka maybe, or whatever, but I don't know, it's really frustrating. And I said exactly what you said. I was talking to my mate Mike, who sits right in front of me today. And at half time, I said exactly what you've just said. We are desperate for a big, massive, hard bastard in the middle of the park that will just bang their heads together.
Yeah.
Almost the Vieira, the old fashioned, the Vinnie Joneses. They wouldn't take shit like that. They wouldn't take poor performances like that. Roy Keane, that kind.
He said that quote about belief. Like, how can... I don't understand why they would lack belief, because we've come off the back of 3 decent results, barring the West Ham, which was a decent performance. So the belief should be there, because you've battered Southampton at home. You've got Coutinho in your side. Go out there and show us what you can do on the big stage, because let's be honest, there's players in that squad that their ambitions probably are to play in the Champions League. Their ambitions are to play for their countries at the highest level, to win those trophies. So if you ain't got belief when you're going on that pitch, then what hope have you got? And I think, that our 2 owners were watching that today. And I mean, imagine what they're thinking. I mean, they've spent £300 million and they're sat there thinking, what is this at times? Like, I mean, we've got a big episode coming out on this channel on Tuesday. It's, we're revealing, we're talking about Aston Villa's financials and where we got to go, what's going on, how certain things can happen. But, there's going to be, there's fans that sit there and think, yeah, we can possibly blow another 100 and some odd million pounds, but we can't keep doing that. That the answer isn't every window and every season that we don't succeed and get Europe to be thinking, oh, well, in the summer we'll replace him and we'll blow another 120 mil. And if that doesn't work, then what happens? We're getting into a very important stage in our ownership here, for where we need to go and where we need to be. And at the minute, what we always sort of come out saying is, next year we're gonna push, we're gonna do it. But there'll be a season where next season it's not the case. Do you know what I mean? And I just think some of the players have got to start fixing up and realising the magnitude of the club that they're playing for, and the expectation. There is an expectation of this football club to achieve things, and I think at the minute it all just seems a bit like it's just like by the by. It's just, it don't mean anything. But I think they need to have a bit of a look at themselves, some certain players, and if they are lacking that belief, then they need to start fixing up, because they've probably got 10 games to go. Some of them probably might not even play for Villa next season. So
I think we've got to trust the manager. He's the manager. He's the one that's been tasked with taking us on to the next level. So we keep going on about what he did as a player, and he was a top player, wasn't he? He played most of his football throughout his whole career at the very, very top of the Premier League and in international football. So if anybody knows what it takes to work at the top of the Premier League, it's him, isn't it? So what we've got to do is trust that he knows the levels and the standard that we need all of the players to get to. And if they aren't up to that standard, then in the summer, then it'll ship them on. And that's how it's got to be. And maybe we've seen a little bit of that now of players. When he says they lack belief, maybe that is because they know that they're just not fancied by the manager, and he's having to use them because we've only got what we've got. So maybe these players that are just thinking, well, he doesn't fancy me. He only sticks me on for this minute or that minute, and he says this and that. And I think he's talking about me when he thinks like that. A few of them will be thinking, is he talking about me? Saying that they lack belief. So I think that there's a few players looking over the shoulder and, looking to maybe thinking, well, I'll be moving on in the summer. So are you going to see the best out of them? I don't know. It's a tricky one, isn't it, when you're coming towards the end of a season and there's rumours about that there's going to be big changes again in the summer on the playing front. So we've just got to trust the manager, and I would think we'll get a reaction at the Wolves game. I know we've said that before and it hasn't happened, but it's a big derby. We own one after what they did to us at Villa Park, don't we? They've lost sounds like they've lost a couple of players that are going to be crucial for that game. So, it's a couple of weeks away. They're going to go away and have a rethink and hopefully come back firing on all cylinders after the break. But yeah, bitterly disappointed today. Bitterly disappointed.
Right. We'll end it there. Sorry for
Go and have a pint.
Everyone.
Go and have a pint and enjoy your night.
I'm just frustrated. But yeah, so international break now. So we've got a big one coming up this week about Aston Villa's financials. I've got a little cheeky episode that I'm working on myself, which can't wait to bring to you. That will probably be out this time next weekend. And then we'll be just ramping up our preview for the Wolves game come the start of the following week. So, we've got content coming still, so stick with us. Drop your thoughts on how you feel like we played today. And yeah, have a good weekend. Up the Villa.
Up the Villa. Keep